Now, I would like to, at least for me, I think, address the elephant in the room, and that is a certain Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle lookalike wannabe, Kylian Mbappé Situation. And oh boy, where do I even begin with this thing? So I constantly been getting asked, Junior, what's your opinion on, what the situation with Mbappe, him leaving PSG, him joining Real Madrid, the whole debacle, the club, this, that, and the other. Now is that time. Now I will go and try to, at least the best of my capabilities, address all my thoughts and of everything all at once. All right, to begin with, how did I feel about him like when the news came out? I'm not gonna lie, okay, I guess looking at it from a PSG perspective, given that you hear this every single year, every single summer, every single transfer window, Mbappe wants to leave, yada, yada, yada. When it came out, my first reaction was, okay, listen, how is this any different to the stuff that we constantly heard? I think it was Santi, the French journalist, who came out with the information saying that Mbappe is not extending at PSG. But then the thing is, he said that, he's got a contract already with Real Madrid, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, initially, I just didn't believe it. I was like, this is fake news. Honestly, I'm not going to believe it. How is it any different than what happened in the summer? People were saying he's going to leave and other years. So I was like, listen, and this is sort of still my case now to a certain degree, although I think now, and I'll get onto it further on afterwards, I think this case is obviously slightly different, but generally speaking, my view on specifically in particular with Mbappe is that unless it comes out of them specifically, until Mbappe himself has said he's leaving, or that there is a press conference where I see him with the other team's jersey or a public statement, listen, it ain't over till it's over. Because with Mbappe, you really do not know. And I'm not even saying that that means he's going to sign with PSG. I'm just saying this guy is an enigma of football. With any other player, you can bring me Fabrizio Romano, all these, if it's not from Mbappe or his clan or whatnot, I ain't believe in it. And so when it came out initially, I was like, this is fake news. I'm not going to believe it. It wasn't helped by the fact that like a couple of days later or whatnot, the Mbappe clan was like, no, there's no contact. We haven't had any information we haven't been in discussions, this, that, and the other. And also it was very weird in that because I believe, the day that information broke out, it was something like 3 days after PSG had played their Trophée des Champions final game against Nantes, in which case, and that was like the first time in a long while where Mbappe came out to the media and said that there's still a situation with the club, that even if he does leave for free, that it's all sorted, and that he's going to try to make sure that he hasn't made a decision yet, but that he's not going to, wait on it, and that if and when he does go and make the decision, he's going to try to make it public or make it known ASAP as soon as possible. And so, I don't know, I found it weird for him to go and that he would go and say that, and then 3 days later, supposedly have everything signed, settled, and sorted, and he's leaving, he's going to Real Madrid, nothing but 3 days later. And so I found that very suspicious. I didn't deny the fact that it's obviously a possibility, but I found it very questionable that 3 days after saying that, I don't have a decision yet, that all of a sudden now I do have a decision, so on and so forth. As for one of the big things, okay, now he's leaving. It's like, okay, how do you think PSG is going to be? This and the other. You have to be honest, as a PSG fan, obviously, is it going to be a hit towards the club? Absolutely. Mbappe is arguably, if not the greatest player on the planet at the moment. And so replacing a player of that caliber is going to be very difficult and arguably impossible to replace him like for like. However, I think also it will also do the club a whole load of good. First and foremost, on a purely financial aspect, that you're not going to be burdened with the tremendously astronomical wages of such a player, and not only that, but also on the sporting aspect and also on the human aspect of, for as good as Mbappe is on the pitch and everything that he does, it's great. If you could have Mbappe and have the Messi mentality where he just doesn't say anything, that Mbappe would be GOAT status immediately. The thing is that when you get Mbappe, you get not only, yes, the fantastic performance on the pitch, but you get all the nonsense offside the pitch, the pivot gang, this isn't Kiki Saint-Germain, the blasting the club at points, I want to leave, this and the other, all this other shenanigans. And listen, I'm not going to miss that one bit. And so in that sense, it's going to bring a sort of, I want to say, tranquility and peace to the club that the club hasn't had for, frankly, a very, very long time, arguably ever since, both Neymar and Mbappe joined in the summer of 2017. And so I think that's going to do the club good. And with those wages on the sporting level too, is that yes, Mbappe does bring you that flair, that X factor, that factor that nobody can truly bring you in world football bar him. But also Mbappe is Mbappe, which means that he doesn't press. And so, especially with Lucho and the way he wants to play and the way he wants to set up things, I think that him leaving will also give more freedom for him to tinker and to sort of play the way he wants to play, rather than to having to sort of adapt and craft a bit around, you know, how to best utilize and how to best use Mbappe in any particular situation. And I also think that potentially it also can liberate some players knowing that, well, Mbappe's gone now, because even now, even if it's not like explicitly said, like people always made fun of, Mbappe's now the president of PSG, this and the other. And obviously like Mbappe does have an unreasonable amount of power and an unjustified amount of power at PSG. That's without question. All right. And even if you're going to argue that, he's not like going in, like people were memeing that, if somebody doesn't pass him the ball, that like he's going to have him fired, this and the other. I don't think it's that. Obviously, people are obviously, taking it to exaggerating. However, there is that sense of, well, if Mbappe, just in general, if you have such a big player, a monumentous player, a player with such gravitas like that, naturally, if he asks for the ball, what are you going to say? No? You're going to go and give it to him. And so there is that aspect of even like Mbappe's strong suit is not dropping down deep and playmaking. That's not his strong suit. His strong suit is going fast on the break, on the counter, going explosive speed, and his wonderful, brilliant finishing to go and finish off actions and be that killer for us in game. And so I think him leaving will allow people who are better suited at dropping down deep, i.e. Vitinha and people like that, and also people like Barcola to express themselves more, and even people like 𝘾𝙀𝘾𝘼 to not always look for Mbappe every single time, as sometimes it can be the case with PSG. So in that sense, I think PSG will be able to do good. And if PSG go and do a good load of business over the summer and are able to, spend their money wisely and get players, not just try to replace him with a big, massive superstar for the glitz and the glamour, but truly go and think about a true overall sporting project, I think PSG can rebound and arguably be better next season than we are this season. We are still technically, if you want, a team in transition. And despite being that team in transition, PSG are still in a quarterfinal of a Champions League and have a very reasonable path to the final. And so I guess that's my view on the more sporting aspect of Mbappe and how I feel about it at this point on, I guess, on an emotional level. And this will tie on to my next point about, is Mbappe a snake? Is Mbappe like a traitor? Is he a rat for leaving the club and so on and so forth? On an emotional level, when I heard it, I was a bit bummed that, that he's leaving, so on and so forth. However, that being said, to call him a snake, I think is really a stretch. Are there things that he's done that have been questionable and that you put into question? Absolutely. Has he oftentimes done things that are not in the interest of the club? Absolutely. However, to go and say that he's been a snake, that he's like a traitor to the club, like if Mbappe goes, if you've known for 3 seasons at minimum that Mbappe's had made known his desires, at least that he flirting with the idea of going to Real Madrid, and once I'm explicitly asking that he wants to leave. In 2022, when he did sign, it was between you and Real Madrid that he wanted to sign. Last year, even when he did sign that contract, a couple weeks later, went on to go and send a letter saying that he has no intentions of signing that extension. If you know all these things a year in advance, and then when he comes and says, I'm leaving now, and you say that's a traitor, I mean, I don't know. For me, traitor is like he goes, everything seems fine, there's a contract extension, and then bang, he decides to stiff arm the club, decides to go on strike, stops coming to training, and then leaves and forces his way out of the club. It's not that situation. And so in my eyes, I can't call him Mbappe snake. And I'd say my issue too with people, some PSG fans would go as far as to say that, he's respected the club and this and the other. And has he? Absolutely. I'm not denying that. And in particular, looking at the whole Monaco debacle in him going and, doing his little victory parade, going out like Caesar, doing a little victory tour around the Louis II, and then going to the stand, sitting with his mom, I think is absolutely disgraceful. I think for actions like that, I think Mbappe should have been stripped of the captaincy. Arguably should have been benched for the return leg of the Sociedad game. However, to go as far as to say that he should never wear the colors of a PSG jersey, I think is too much of a stretch. I didn't see many of those people last season when Messi literally skipped training, did not go to training, was in a completely different country. Like they weren't clamoring for him to never ever wear their jersey again. And if they did, it was a much smaller voice compared to the number of people who are clamoring for Mbappe to never, set on the pitch for under PSG colors again. So I'm not going to go that far. I think in situations like this, I think it's important to, yes, go in and look at it critically and say, okay, this is what Mbappe's done. Yes, he's done a great load of good, but also not to in the fact that in the things that he's done that irk you and whatnot, to not also swing the pendulum the other way and say that this guy is like an enemy of the club and that he doesn't care at all about the club. You can say that he's not the most. Perhaps you could say that his number one priority is not the club. fair enough, yeah. But to go on to say that Mbappe has no like care whatsoever at all for PSG is a huge stretch, and I think it's being massively disingenuous. I think that especially as he's grown, I think as he spent more time at the club, I think he does have an attachment to the club, a love for the club to a certain degree. Perhaps not in the way that I would want, certainly. I think I'd like him to have a closer one, but certainly a relationship with the club. And I think he will leave the club as a PSG legend. Some people will say that he's not number one and he can't be because of his actions. That's fair. But to go and to now say that he should never ever wear the club jersey ever again, this and the other, I think is far too much of a stretch. And the thing that honestly irks me the most about Mbappe is the fact that he can go and in 1 week, like the Monaco game, go and do stuff like that, completely abandon his team, go to the stands when you're in a game where he hasn't played well. It's subbed at halftime. The team's not particularly playing well to this and the other. You've got a huge tie in the Champions League coming up, and he does that. But then a couple of days later, puts a masterclass like he did against Real Sociedad, scoring 2 absolute bangers and being quintessential in sending you through to the knockout stages, to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. So he's able to do both those things at once. So I don't know. It's difficult. If it isn't true, I guess nothing yet to this point he hasn't said anything officially himself. Although at this point, I think, and this alludes to what I was saying earlier and how I don't really trust anything unless it comes from Mbappe. At this point, I do think that I guess I have to caveat this and I guess backtrack a bit on that statement and saying that in this time around, I think it's a lot more real than it once was, because this time at this point you've got, I think it was 𝙁𝙁𝘍𝘾𝘼 at one point he said that he like gave a speech in front of the players saying that he's leaving. We've had 𝙁𝙁𝘍𝘾𝘼 several times when he's asked that he's like, we're gonna have to get used to playing without Mbappe. All things alluding to that he's not going to be there next season. So I think the fact that at minimum that he's leaving PSG, I think those are reasonable. I think it's beyond any reasonable doubt that's done, that Mbappe will not be a PSG player next season. Now, the fact that he's going to be a Real Madrid player, I think is the most likely scenario. I think most people think that's the case, but I guess nothing yet has been concrete and done. And so I guess until that's done, I won't go and say it's official yet. But certainly the fact that he's leaving the club is done. And my opinion on him going to Real Madrid, I mean, I'm going to be honest here. I really do not like Real Madrid. I do not like the club. Dare I say I probably hate the club. But however, I have to respect Real Madrid as an institution. Arguably over the course of football and footballing history, they are probably the biggest club in the entire history of football, certainly the most successful club on the European stage, even in Spain as well. And so I personally, I guess I wish Mbappe the best. If it is indeed Real Madrid he goes to, I wish him the best personally at Real Madrid. I hope he scores hat-tricks every single game, and I hope Real Madrid lose 4-3 anyways, all right? I hope he goes and gets the Pichichi, the Ballon d'Or, everything, and that they still get relegated, all right? For me, I hope that individually, wish him all the best. Despite all the things I may have with him at PSG, I still need him in good spirits for the French national team, and I'm not gonna go, discredit everything and all the great stuff that he's done for the club. A lot of PSG fans will go and say, "Oh, we gave him everything, this, that, and the other, and look what he's done." I mean, it's like, at the same time too, you could also argue that there's been cases where like Mbappe was more than justified to leaving leaving the club. If Mbappe left in 2022 after being really the only player there that actually played and did something in that tie against Real Madrid. At that point, like, I think most PSG fans had accepted, like, if he leaves, you can't really hold it against him. And any PSG fan who say that, no, like, he can't, no. I think at that point, he was more than justified of leaving. And despite that, he decided to stay. Granted, now, what were his intentions? Were those intentions all because of out of the kindness of his own heart and the love for PSG? I don't think so. I think saying that is also disingenuous. I think the monetary aspect of that was huge. It was a contract that, at least very well so, will not be seen in football in a while. And so, as a footballer, take that year, he gets to have for an extra 2 years at the club, touch ungodly amounts of money. I think any reasonable person would have taken that offer. But I do also think that he did genuinely want to try this new era PSG and so on and so forth. And most likely got disinterested in it fairly quickly. And even despite all those things, I'm not saying that what he did is good. I'm not accepting. I'm saying that he's done. There's a lot of things that I don't think he said. I don't like oftentimes the fact that he doesn't take personal accountability of his performances at times and is very quick to, I guess, give excuses for the performances of the club overall and saying that it's just the team. That's just how it is. I think especially now, given his position at the club and his position over the last couple of years now, I think he hasn't done enough as the leader of the team, even if he hasn't been captain all the time, to go and to put the club in a good light. the biggest one for me that comes to my mind is the whole, what he said last season in the Champions League, going into it before, how this is our team now and we'll see our level go as far as we can. And then when we do get eliminated, he says, this is our level. This is the best that we could muster. And that Bayern, I don't like that aspect of it. I think if you are going to go and you're a bit mad and so on and so forth, I think you go and you say that, you know, we just weren't good enough today, that Bayern were the better team today, that I didn't have so on and so forth. But the fact that you go and you say that was our level and sort of like that and blasting it and sort of making it seem like, you know, it's all on them. I did my part. Maybe, yes, that was the case probably for France at the World Cup, but certainly for PSG, like he didn't have the greatest game in particular in that second leg. And so I think sometimes his dodging of responsibilities irks me certainly the wrong way. But I'm not going to go and, despite all his flaws, and trust me, he's got many, I can't then go and use those and discount everything that he's done for the club. He's been monumental, and not only marketing wise for the club, but also on a sporting level. Was a part of the squad of players that brought us to our first ever Champions League final, brought us to back-to-back semifinals in that second season in particular, was instrumental in getting us there. And so, as they say, give unto Caesar what is Caesar, I have to give him his respects that he is due. And so, I guess, I hope, I think that says the broad, very broad, or I guess as detailed, in-depth analysis of how I feel personally on the whole Mbappe situation, Mbappe leaving the club. I guess to wrap up everything, I'd say it hurts. It's a bit bizarre, and in particular the fact that this season, it truly is his team. He had Neymar leave, he had Messi leave, he had Verratti or gone. Now, to what extent he had a hand in that, who knows? I guess we'll never truly know. But the point is that this year in particular, he was the main man. He was that guy. There was no Messi. There was no sharing of the spotlight. He was the main guy. And for him to, in a sense, abandon ship like that and to leave at sort of, as we're going to this high now, is a bit like, you've got now everything you want. And now as soon as we get that, now is when you decide to leave. I guess rubs me the wrong way. But then again, I guess you could argue also that we did have the 2 seasons prior to that where he tried it and it didn't work out. So I can see, I understand perhaps his point. I still think he's wrong. And I think not only for, like, people will say, oh, he needs to, like, people constantly clamor that. And this is actually something that kind of irks me that I don't like. People say that Mbappe absolutely needs to leave, you know, PSG if he wants to further his career. It's like, says who? How so? Like, okay, Mbappe, let's say deal's finalized. Tomorrow we hear that Mbappe signed for Real Madrid. He goes to Real Madrid, smashes, let's say he goes, scores a bunch of goals, goes and wins a couple Champions League. At that point, he'll be one of many great players to have played for Real Madrid. And if that's what he wants, more power to him. But the point is also, and what a lot of, like, especially people in France go and say, is that if Mbappe goes and stays at PSG, even if he just wins a single Champions League or 2 or something like that, goes, his legacy, he will be truly at that point, like without a shadow of a doubt, the best player at the club. His stamp on PSG will be unparalleled, unrivaled for many years to come. Not only that, add on to the fact that he's French, that he's Paris born and bred, this, that, and the other, and you've got like the hallmarks of everything that needs to be for him to be a certified, dare I say, untouchable club legend. Whereas he leaves now to Real Madrid, especially leaving under many of the circumstances he's leaving with the, you know, pivot gang and the Monaco, the bulk, all these things. I think, especially in the last couple of recent weeks, that his legacy at PSG certainly was going to be tarnished. To what capacity he can revitalize that if he goes and wins the Champions League? Is it all going to be forgiven? Who knows? He splits the fan base quite a lot. And so, I don't know. But again, if Mbappe, Real Madrid is the club he's always wanted to play for, since he's been very young. Monaco, he could have left there straight from Monaco. He didn't decide to come to PSG. So, I don't know. I guess that's my 2 cents on it. I'd actually be really curious to know what you guys feel about it, how you guys feel on the whole Mbappe situation, him leaving, what you guys think. Do you guys think that he actually truly does need to leave PSG to go and to become the player that he needs to be? I just personally find it like, it's just, at that point, I feel like it's just PSG bashing, that people are sort of not respecting PSG as a club. I'm not saying that, you know, we're bigger than Real Madrid, this and the other, but like PSG is like, they're making it seem as though PSG is some like mid-table Premier League side with absolutely like no history, no pedigree, nothing. Whereas PSG is like, without shadow of a doubt, the biggest club in France and does have a way and a say on the European stage, at least at this point. So I'd be curious to know. Let me know how you guys feel about that.